In 1969, NASA's Space Task Group published the Post-Apollo Space Program, Directions for the Future. It was a document created with the intent to provide guidance as to what NASA should do after the Apollo program was completed. In it, the task group recommended that NASA should, and I quote, develop new systems and technology for space operations with emphasis upon the critical factors of 1, commonality, 2, reusability, and 3, economy, through a program directed initially towards the development of new space transportation capability and space station modules utilizing new capacity. In other words, they should build a space station. But before they did that, they had to build a space shuttle, the world's first reusable spacecraft. Initially, the design was meant to be fully reusable, with a manned booster as well as a manned orbiter. However, this proved too costly to develop. In 1972, a design was developed with a fully reusable manned orbiter, 2 reusable booster rockets, and a non-reusable fuel tank. This design was approved, a contract was signed with North American Rockwell to build the thing, and so the space shuttle we know and love today was born. The first space shuttle wasn't really a space shuttle. It was designed for in-atmosphere tests, both on the ground and in the air. While in construction, the test shuttle was called OV-101, with the intent to name it Constitution. However, many Star Trek fans organized a letter campaign, sending in tens of thousands of letters asking that the shuttle be named Enterprise, and they did, in fact, change the name, inviting the original cast and crew of Star Trek to come to the dedication of the shuttle. Never underestimate the nerds. The Enterprise went through much testing, including 5 free flight tests. These tests assisted in the development of the first space shuttle that would see outer space, the Columbia. Delays were experienced within the development and in the installation of thermal protection on the craft, but on April 12, 1981, the Columbia became the first reusable spacecraft to leave the atmosphere, successfully landing back on Earth 2 days later. The shuttle did another launch in November, proving that reusable spacecraft had indeed been achieved. Several other shuttles were developed. The Challenger had its first flight on the 4th of April, 1983, the Discovery on the 30th of August, 1984, and the Atlantis on the 3rd of October, 1985. The Space Shuttle program seemed to be a success, providing many firsts in space exploration, like the first African American in space, William Bulford, the first untethered spacewalk by Bruce McCandless, and the first American woman in space, as well as the first queer person in space, Los Angeles Valley native Sally Ride. Things were looking up for space shuttles, both as a design and as a program. And then, tragedy.
Good evening, I'm Roger Grimsby. Here now the news. In the course of the U.S. effort to explore and work in space, there's never been anything like what happened today. The shuttle exploding, science were watching, children were watching, and all aboard, including a school teacher, were killed.
At 9 o'clock this morning, Mission Control in Houston lost contact with our space shuttle Columbia. A short time later, debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors.
The Columbia and Challenger disasters showed the dangers of the space shuttle. Many criticized NASA, saying that they didn't take enough precautions to keep their astronauts safe. The largest loss of life in space exploration history is something that cannot be overstated. The Endeavour was developed to replace the Challenger, but the Columbia disaster was the final nail in the coffin. A little less than a year after the Columbia disaster, it was announced that the Space Shuttle program would be retiring. The final mission, a flight of the Atlantis, launched on July 8, 2011 and landed on the 21st of July, marking the end of the Space Shuttle program. The surviving shuttles are housed in Los Angeles, Florida, Virginia, and New York City today. The Space Shuttle program wasn't perfect. It had its vast amount of controversies, was incredibly expensive, and unforgettably deadly. However, the Space Shuttle cemented itself as history as the first reusable spacecraft and paved the way for much of the spacecraft we see and will see take to the stars today and beyond.